welcome to the yet-to-be-named Magic the Gathering podcast with myself, Alex, from ReallyPrettyMTG, and my good friend, Dom, a.k.a. the Dominator MTG. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, great. We're here to talk about some Ravnica escapades.
Yeah, we certainly will, and we're also, towards the end, we're going to start talking about some of the Murder of Karlov Manor cards.
Yeah.
They haven't fully released all of them yet, which is a bit problematic, but we'll cherry pick some of the stuff that we've seen so far and have a little chat about it. Sure, this will age particularly well, but we'll see how this goes. Let's start with Ravnica first. So, how much were you looking forward to this little set here, Dom?
So, Ravnica Remastered, because I started playing at Return to Ravnica, this is kind of a massive nostalgia trip for me.
Yeah.
Always good to get Shocklands reprinted.
Oh, yeah.
Always needed.
Yep.
But yes, seeing some of the cards and remembering them from when I used to play Standard way back in the day is really interesting.
Yep.
And I unfortunately didn't get a chance to draft it. But I know in a previous episode you mentioned you wanted to try and do some more drafting, and you actually managed to draft this set, didn't you?
Yeah, so you're dead right. I did say I wanted to do some more drafting and managed to go and do some last weekend and thoroughly enjoyed it. I forgot how much the drafting experience makes me a bit uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is I'm always, you open your pack one, and my pack one was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I was like, well, what do I take here? I can't even remember what my pack one pick was, but I end up having that absolute sort of mind rot of, I feel like there's something I should definitely be taking here, but I'm definitely not seeing what I should be taking here. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so what deck did you end up drafting then?
So I ended up going for Boros Aggro. So as we started to go through the packs, I started to see a lot of reoccurrence cards. So the Boros Guildmage, I think I had 3 of. Boros Elite, I had a 3 of. I had the White Knight that it basically has like a self like bump +2/+2 when you don't have cards in hand or something like that, I think it was. I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, I started to see a lot of these. It turned into a really soft, like, constructed deck. I was seeing so many 3s and 4s of. The real winner as well is I had I can't remember the name of the card, but it was Artifact or Enchant card. It gets +2/+0. And again, if you have no cards in hand, you get an additional +2/+0. So what was happening is I'd be putting them on all sorts of cards. I think there's a draw card as well for it as well, but that's over here or there. But you just got the opportunity to like pump it. So with the Guildmage, the Boros Guildmage, being able to have the ability to give it first strike was like just amazing. You'd go in to do blocks, and then people were like, "Oh yeah," there was one opponent I was playing with. He just had this Death Touch up that was just causing me issues until I put that down, and I I played this and sort of tilted into it sideways, and you could tell like his face was a bit like, yes, excellent, went into it, pay 3, get first strike. Oh, I forgot about that. Do you know what I mean? So no, it was really good fun actually. From a side note for myself, it was really nice to get back to drafting, to give it another shot. It's actually given me a bit more of a taste for it. I want to go do a little bit more. We were talking off mic about this, but actually there's a cube that might be going on next week that I'm looking forward to go play. So that'll be good fun. But yeah, it's made me want to draft a little bit more. So ultimately, it's a good experience, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, cube drafting is quite different as well, because you can curate a cube. So you can have a pauper cube or a high-powered cube.
Yep.
You can kind of build from a set of cards that you want to play with, and hadn't necessarily drafted in the past.
Yeah. Cubes are always interesting to me because I know there's lots of different ways of doing it. I've seen a number of different sort of vintage cubes that really got me interested. I do like high power, and again, off mic we were talking about a friend of ours that's got quite a high power cube that we're hopefully going to try and get played at some point. But even some of the budget ones, they sound really good fun. I know there's been plenty of stuff talked about CubeCon and how much fun they had. That's obviously Emma Putlow's cube that they were playing. and I don't know if you've watched any of it, but it looks really good fun.
I did actually watch, the professor's video there with Emma on it. Yeah,
that was
really good.
Yeah, it was really good fun. It's again, I think the level of Magic, whether it's high or sort of pauper power or whatever and like that, doesn't really matter as long as it's the same level. You're then playing, good consistent Magic really. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more. But just come back to Ravnica Remastered. I mean, there's some really good cards. We'll come on to the Shocklands in a minute, because I want to sort of talk about them a little bit more. But there were some really nice cards that were reprinted. Niv Mizzet's always a good one to see, and when you're opening packs and that sort of stuff. And the promo, the other version of Niv Mizzet that's a really nice one to get as well. I think it's a cool little card. The retro foils, the retro borders. Sorry. I'm a big fan of them. Yeah, you've got to actually being able to... Even the Guild Gates in retro border look really good. Yeah, they really, really did. So, yeah, it was really good. Did you have any particular cards that you had your eye open for or anything? I only pre-ordered one card, and it's... I've got a Boros Aurelia deck in Commander, and I wanted to have a Commander I could switch in, which is a bit lower powered. Okay. So I did actually pre-order the anime version of Aurelia with the Mentor. So instead of having 2 combat steps, she pumps a creature, gives it +2/+0 vigilance and trample. Yeah. Whether it's red or white. Yeah. So I switched that in. I played a couple of games with it on Friday night and it did quite well. You can still get some pretty meaty extra combats out, but it's not on the Commander. And it's 4 mana, so it comes down a lot earlier than the 6 mana Aurelia as well. So. Sorry to interrupt you, I've just remembered from my draft, it was Battalion I had a lot of. Okay, yeah. That's how that all met together. So that works really, really nicely. But yeah, so I know the card you're talking about, and actually it's a really nice addition to have, and it's a nice way that you can swap it up without being too impactful, really. Yeah, I think if you've got a deck where you can actually switch out the Commander to bring it up or down in power level, that's quite a good thing to be able to do, depending what pod you're in. Yeah. If you're playing a slightly, against precon stuff, you can bring out the lower powered version. Yeah. Which I think is good utility, because there's nothing worse than you turn up to a pod and someone sits down and you kind of think to yourself, oh, this one's a bit powerful for this. I'll change it out. Like, that's a really nice utility to have in any deck, to be honest. I know you can't always do that when you build decks, but that's nice. Yeah, I tell you what, actually, a lot of the games I've won recently have been with precons. Yeah. Some of the more recent precon decks, like the dinosaurs and things like that. Yeah, I think the level of precons has obviously gone up in the years, but say I also have the dinosaur precon from Ixalan, and it's good. It's really, really good. It's one of those decks that I think if there's not much targeted removal and particularly no board wipes, you're very difficult to deal with. Yeah, you can run away with it. I feel like a lot of modern Commander design seems to be you're getting some kind of value or card draw from your Commander, which has always been really powerful. So. I mean, I suppose looking from outside in, there's no point if they're trying to make Commander products, they want them to be at least half playable. Otherwise, who's going to buy them? Who's going to buy a Commander that, whenever you draw a card, you just scry one? Do you know what I mean? Particularly if it's expensive. You want something that can help create an engine to get value out of it, whether it's draw or, pump or whatever like that. That's the whole idea of it, really, isn't it? So it's nice to see them soon have them. So there's a bit more power coming through as well. Yeah. Have you seen any of the new Commanders that have been previewing? I've seen a couple of them. I haven't really looked into them too much at this moment in time, if I'm honest with you. I feel like, although we're going to talk about some of these cards, I do feel like I've been a little standoffish from it, because I feel like I want to see it all and absorb it all before I sort of really dive into it. But have you seen something particularly that you quite like? The precons, I'm looking towards the Boros one. Oh, right. Just maybe I can split my combat deck into 2 and have a kind of a low-powered one and then a really high-powered one. Okay, yeah. So we'll see what that brings. But they haven't previewed the Commander decks yet.
the deck lists?
No, they're coming. I think for us will be next week. I think, won't they? So which will be we're about 2 weeks out from general release. So I think we've got one more week of release of previews, haven't we? Really?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see that. Obviously, I suspect. Do you know who's previewing the Commanders? I presume it's the Game Night people, isn't it?
Yeah, they normally give one deck to 4 different content creators who release a video revealing the deck list. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see them at hand. It's always good.
Yeah. I mean, the main set, they previewed a lot of the cards now, and there's some really interesting ones. But yeah, we're still halfway through, so obviously there's a lot more to come that we can't talk about yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like, from where we are at this minute, I mean, we'll come back to this. This will be our second subject we'll discuss, but I feel like we've still got some real bombs to come through at the minute. Really, I feel like they've teed it up quite nicely. I hope they do. If not, it's going to feel a little bit like, bit meh. But I don't quite want to say that, but
I feel like there's pits and troughs every preview season. After a couple of days, you see a post on social media saying, "Oh, this set seems terrible."
Yeah.
When you've seen like 12 cards out of the 300,
Yeah, but isn't that just classic the internet? They show one card and it's just like, oh, it's busted or it's terrible. It's never. It's a decent card.
I feel
2 mana 2/2 with trample's all right. Like, do you know what I mean?
Card evaluation has always been a hilarious thing to look back on as well, where you've got cards that were overlooked, and then they end up kind of breaking every format in half.
Yeah.
And then you've got other cards which are super hyped up and just don't see play. So it's quite interesting to see people how they evaluate cards as they're released.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will overrate or underrate cards as they're shown until they see play, or how they interact with the state of the format, right? Because it's like you might have a really broken card, but if there's no shell or deck that it fits into right now, then it might not see play.
Well, this is another side to it as well, is that there is always going to be cards that they may even be looking into the future. So you got to remember the design space, they're looking at 2 years ahead, whereas what we're seeing now, we're 2 years behind. So there may be something in 6 to 18 months that actually their whole plan is, to us now these cards seem a bit like they're really meh or mediocre, but they may open up other deck types that come out through.
Now, I think I read, although it might not be true, that this is the first set that they've taken a 3-year rotation into account for.
Okay, interesting.
So you'll have things printed here which are obviously, looking to the future for future archetypes or to increase the power of decks that we just haven't seen yet.
I do like that idea that you can get towards the end of rotation and they release a new set that brings in older cards back into the meta. I do really, really like that. I think that's a good idea because instead of it just being bulk that never sees the light of day, you can bring it back in and these cards sort of come back. I do really, really like that plan and that idea. I think it's good.
Yeah, you often see like a couple of rares thrown to a kind of an older deck to give them a bit more time in the sun just before they rotate.
Exactly. Just coming back to card evaluation, though, I do feel like it's me talking. I've done one draft and I feel like I'm a changed man, but because I've done a bit of research beforehand, I do actually feel like that thinking at preview cards in a draft mind has made me look at cards a bit differently. So instead of just looking at a card and be like, that's not going in any of my commander decks, I've actually started to think of it a little bit differently, and it's broadened my horizons a little bit, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there's certain cards which are obviously designed to be bombs in limited, and it's like things that they probably don't want to see in draft or sealed will be mythic rarity, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas actually some of the rares will be amazing in a sealed or draft environment.
Yeah. I think they've always suffered with that a little bit in sets. You'll always get people that would be like, this mythic is just worth nothing. It's just a real feel bad. But if you were in a draft or if you were in sealed, you'd be like, yes.
Yeah,
thanks.
It wins you every game you see it in your draft deck.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's what happens when you have a product that sort of covers both of those bases. Just coming back to the last episode we were talking about, I actually wonder whether the play booster, will make that feel a a bit more together. It'd be interesting. I'm really looking forward to getting my hand on these.
I can't wait to open some of them and just see what the contents are.
Yeah.
But, I think there is the potential to get a lot more powerful cards.
Yeah, I think that as well.
I think draft and sealed will be really interesting if you get a kind of a crazy card on the list
100%.
that works within the set.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. That'll be really interesting. How they curate the list, feeding into the fact that you will be able to draft and play sealed with those list cards as well.
Exactly.
That'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I think it will do. And I think it will almost double down on the idea that removal is key in these formats. You know, that's something that I really underestimated until recent months, really, which is actually this amazing card is fantastic. But when someone's, you know, killing your 6 mana amazing bomb with a 2 mana, I'm going to exile that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Removal is key with these formats. It's interesting looking at it like that now.
There's nothing worse than you finally get enough mana to play your 6-drop and then someone puts a pacifism on it and it can't attack or block and you're just real sad.
The pacifier effects are... I forgot how much of a feel bad they are because you don't see them in Commander, Standard, or any other format other than Sealed. And my God, they're so frustrating because you're like, oh, I've just spent my 6 mana on this amazing card and can't attack or block. Or...
Yeah, it's not gone into the graveyard, so you can't ignore it there. It's just sitting on your playmat mocking you.
Yeah, it is. That's the perfect way of looking at it. It is. It's like looking over you and be like, you know, sorry, boss, I can't do anything. Amazing. We'll pop back to this in a while. I kind of just want to. We'll start to lean it back towards Ravnica Remastered, but particularly the Shocklands. So it's always good to see a reprint of cards, particularly Shocklands themselves. I mean, I still remember the price they were at. So to see them round now, even sort of sub £10, you know, I've seen some even as low as sort of 6 and 7 for such good utility, well, not utility lands, but staple lands now. Is this that sort of argument of that not overprinting, reprinting things regularly brings that price down, which then makes it more affordable to other people? Are we seeing? Do you feel like we are now seeing that coming through?
I think it feels like they are being a little bit more aggressive with their reprinting. Mm-hmm. You're seeing things like the Mystery Guests is a good example.
I like this Mystery Guests one. I really do.
Where you've got cards that don't want to print into Standard, but actually as a slot in a booster is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shocklands, they're always going to be needed in multiple formats.
Oh, yeah.
They're fetchable. And yeah, untapped lands. You know, the more money you spend, if you spend more mana than your opponent, there's a good chance you might end up winning the game. Right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
they've always been a vital game piece, and they will continue to be so. They just, the supply, hopefully. I feel like because this set is a premium set, it might not have seen a dip that if it was a true Standard set, because it is a kind of supplemental set. But yeah, to see those prices going down is always great.
Yeah, I mean, it's more accessible to people, it's more available. You know, instead of having to pay £25, £30 for a land, we're now looking at £8, £9. I mean, that's a big shift.
Yeah.
I know Shocklands have come down recently anyway, but that's a big shift. It's actually nice now to see that with fetch reprints as well in recent years. I now feel like lands have always been a bit, not obscene, but they have been too much. It now feels like that's now starting to bring down to a point where, you know, if you're having to buy a 4 of a £6 card, that's better than 4 of a £25 card. You know what I'm trying to say? Particularly bear in mind, like, obviously they're not legal in Standard, but Pauper, as well as sort of like supplementary for your modern stuff. I know obviously with your fetchers and that sort of stuff, but your land bases have always been the meat of a value of a lot of decks. So it's nice to bring that down. Hopefully it makes it more affordable for people. Hopefully see more people play it. You know, all those sort of nice things that go up. But I'm really liking I love the borders, particularly the old retro borders.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a massive fan of them. It's nice to see the old artwork coming through as well. Nice to see them sort of come back.
They've also, with the upcoming Murders at Karlov Manor set, you've got the Clue product.
Yeah.
Which does include a borderless Shockland as well.
Yeah, so these are another printing, I suppose. You know, we're technically getting 3 printings of the Shocklands coming up soon. You've obviously got there is a newer version that we're releasing. I can't remember the exact terminology of it. You've got the original artwork, and then you've got these Clue versions as well, which we probably won't see as many of.
It's quite an expensive product, but it does seem like, they'll be hard to get hold of, those borderless ones, because you only get one. Yeah. And it's like, are you really going to buy multiples of this game? Probably not. So you might get one if you're going to pick that up. But
yeah, I think in terms of sort of from a collector's point of view, that's probably going to be the ones that you want to get / keep an eye on. But I kind of like that, because you've got 2 sides of this story. You've got the collectible ones that people that want to collect and spend money on, but you've also got, you know, the lower value ones that's more accessible to everyone else. You know, I really felt like while playing with this set, it felt like a bit of a Pioneer Remastered almost, as in you're seeing so many cards, you're like, oh, this is a great staple in Pioneer, or, you know, this was a standard all-star. Do you know what I mean? It was really nice to see that. It's almost like a little bit of a walk down memory lane from previous standards.
Yeah, I opened a few of these boosters, and actually when you open the pack and you see like the old guild mages, really nice, because they've always been kind of iconic.
They are cool, aren't they? Yeah. I do really like them.
I didn't open any Shocklands though, but...
Well, I did get a box of the collectors, and in one pack I opened 3 Shocklands, which was mental. I done pretty well out of my ones. Yeah, I got 3 of in that, and I've got 2 others that have got 2 Shocklands in as well. I done really well out of those, in fact. But the one thing I would say from a if you was to look at a collector's standpoint is that I feel like the value you get in them is a little bit more, but the wild big pools is less. So your really big pools, they are good money, do not get me wrong, they're always going to be there. But I felt like there's a lot less feel bad with poorer packs in the collector boosters, because you'll still be thinking like, let me give you an example, like, I pulled up like Phoenix or something like that, and you'll be like, oh, great, okay, well, you know, I could find a deck for that, or, you know, I could build that into a Pioneer deck. So do you know what I mean? Instead of a card that you're a bit like, this is not going to really go in any deck of mine, I feel like there was more cards printed into this set that you could easily put into other sets.
Yeah, I think because of the design of the set, and it's a combination of cards from all of the Ravnica sets combined into one kind of draft / sealed experience.
Yep.
Obviously, they curated it in that way.
Yep.
But I think if you are just opening patch value, you are kind of looking for Shocklands, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, you know, there's an argument that, you know, they have got serialized cards in them as well, and again, that seems to be what Wizards seem to be pushing forward as the collectible cards. Again, I don't have a problem with that. You know, there is nothing better than opening, I don't know, if you randomly treat yourself to a collector booster and you open one of those, that's going to be a massive feel good. You know, but like I sort of said, I still feel like even if the pack isn't like an absolute banger, there's still usable cards and there's still staples in there that, for me, there's been nothing worse than you've opened collector boosters and you're like, well, you know, this is a nice foil version of a 2p card, but do you know what I mean? Whereas this one to me hasn't really felt like that. So I felt like the power difference between the top end and the bottom end isn't as wild as it has been in other packs.
It's a bit tight. I feel like Commander Masters was an interesting one for that, because sometimes you'd open a pack and you'd be jumping for joy, and then you'd open the next one and you'd be like, I'm glad I kind of didn't spend too much money on this. Yeah. We got some for free with our tickets for Barcelona, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. That's right, yeah.
It was interesting having not kind of paid for them as such. It's like, would I be happy if I'd paid full value for this pack or not?
Yeah.
And some of them you'd be overjoyed, some of them were low. But yeah, like you say, with this, especially collector boosters, with Ravnica Remastered, you'll probably end up with a land or some playable cards.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I ended up getting... I think I got 7 Shocklands out of the box. So
okay.
I would probably say that's probably on the high side. You know, this isn't me saying if you go get a box of collector boosters, you will get 7 lands. But I mean, I was lucky enough. I'm sure there's people out there that would be like, I got 1 out of the whole of them, and it was the worst one of the bunch or whatever. So that is unfortunately the gamble of opening packs. But I was left feeling pretty good about mine. I'm sure.
Did you get any old border foils or anything?
I got the retro border overgrown tomb in foil. So I was just like, yes, please, and thank you very much. I'm just trying to think what else I got. I didn't get anything else. Like I said, I didn't get any like proper real bangers, but I felt like every pack had 2 or 3 cards that I was just like, yes, and yeah, this will see some play, and this will upgrade a card that's already in my deck or something along those lines. So to me, there felt like a bit of a feel good about it. But just coming full circle to what we were talking about, the draft low was really good fun. I know it's a premium product, but I would advise people to go draft it. It was good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the guys, just quick story, one of the guys I was playing with, he pulled, he had 3 Tidespirant.
The Tyrants.
Yeah, Tidespirant Tyrants. 3 of them in his deck. And we were like, I don't think it ended well for him. Like, I think it was more of, it was like, yeah, I'll have these, why not?
You've got to get to the man to cast them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so I was in the same same table with him. I didn't see any. So obviously, whenever he saw it, it was just like, yoink, thank you very much, I'll have that. But yeah, that weren't for me.
So what was your final record in the draft? Yeah.
So I played a very good player in my first game, and I lost both games. Now the second, or I should say I lost that match. The second game was my fault. I kept a really greedy hand, a really greedy hand. I needed a planes, and I would have been off to the disco dancing all night. And I did not see that planes at all.
Oh dear.
So note to anyone out there, and note to myself if I listen to this again, don't get greedy. Mulligan down. It's definitely the best way of doing it. But I deserved that one. I really did. It was a good player. I was stacked against me anyway. The second game was a bit more of a control-y deck, and we went to time, which is a real shame because I think I would have won that. I really think I would have won that. Our first game took about 35-40 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. It was just a war of attrition. He played a card which doubled his life total when it was high. So I was basically having to take commander hit points off of him. And yeah, it was
with your Boris Weenies.
With my Boris Weenies, yeah, exactly. And Battalion was doing its work, but yeah, that was rough. I'll tell you how rough it was actually. We got to the end of the second game, and he sort of said, oh, because I won that first one, he won the second one, and he said, 2-1 to me, right? And I was just like, no. I was like, that first game went on for like 35 minutes, and he sat there and he went, did it? And I went, yeah. I said, we're nearly at time. We need to shuffle up and play this last game. And he was just like, and then he went, oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? Sorry, I was thinking about, I thought I'd won a game, but it was in my first match. I was just like, no man, we need to shuffle up now.
Nice try.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But we went to time, and it was always one of those things that it was always going to go for a draw. So that was a bit of a shame. And then the second one was a really good match. I ended up winning that one 2-0. I was real pleased with that deck. The deck done what it needed to do. The Boros Guild Mage was, the star player of that deck, man. And having 3 of them just meant I saw it so often. It was fantastic. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Looking forward to doing a little bit more.
So did you get any promos? What was your prizes?
Yeah, so we got the Niv Mizzet promo that was doing the rounds, which was pretty good. Managed to snag some packs as well for winning. But I ended up getting store credit, actually, as well. Yeah, so...
what are you going to spend that on?
Don't know. There's always something to get. There's always something to get.
New shinies. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. There's always, whenever I go through their boxes, there's always something I want. So it's always nice to get, I suppose, the value of a pack off the next big, shiny, expensive card that I want next. So every little helps is what they say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to Murders of Karlov Manor then. So we've still got a couple of weeks to go. The release date is the 9th of February. We are about halfway through preview season, which has caught both you and I out, because in previous preview seasons, they've basically we've basically seen most of, if not all, the cards at this point. With this set, I don't even think we're halfway through. I think we're probably over a third of the cards, but I still feel like there's so much more for us to see.
I think there might be a little bit left and they'll dump the rest of the set, but then we're going to have commander previews, a deck each day, at least alongside it as well.
So I feel like that's coming next week, and we'll start to see a lot more of, I'm going to say like the bulk of the set. I don't mean bulk as in bad, I mean we'll start to see a lot more of the cards that are going into these commander decks.
Yeah, they often do a dump at the end where it's like the rest of the commons, uncommons, and maybe a couple of rares that haven't been previewed, don't they? So.
Yeah, that's right. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the new fetchable lands, because I'm quite excited about these, and I can hear some people out there going, "Oh, it's a tapped land. Why?" But I think anytime they print a fetchable land, particularly in standard, I think is a good thing. But more importantly, I actually really quite like they've got Surveil attached to this.
Yeah. So have you got an example of the land? Maybe read it out if people haven't seen the.
Yeah, so let me have a little spot through. I should have this to hand. Here we go. So these lands are, for argument's sake, you've got Undercity Sewers, which is a island swamp, and it reads, Undercity Sewers enters the battlefield tapped. When Undercity Sewers enters the battlefield, Surveil 1. Surveil is, look at the top card of your library, you may put it into your graveyard. So I think in certain decks, this Surveil is going to be really nice, particularly graveyard decks. And we were talking off mic about this, about the descend mechanic. I think this is a slightly easier way to get that descend. I know descend hasn't really been struggling from what I've been seeing so far, but I think that's really nice. It's not busted. This is not a shock land, or, it's not even like the bolt lands, because I thought they were pretty good, although 3 damage, that's a hit. But I still think these are good lands. I think these are good lands in standard, and I think having them fetchable is sort of the cherry on the top, really.
Because we're getting all 10, aren't we, in this?
Yes, yeah, so we're getting all of them. So it's not half or half like we got with the triomes. We're getting all 10. Yeah, I think this is nice.
I think because they've got the land typings, makes them fetchable. That's a massive plus point. And I think a lot of decks will value Surveil higher than, say, the Scry Temples, for example, are played, aren't they?
Yeah.
Would you include these over a Scry one?
Yeah, it depends on the deck. So I think it's the ultimate thing. The one that always feels bad to me is and I can't remember their communal name, but the enters tapped, gives you 1 life, and you're always just like, great, 1 life for tap land, thank you very much. Whereas these, yes, they come in tapped, but I think the fact that they're fetchable and the Surveil is really, really nice. Don't get me wrong, it's horses for courses. There are some decks you want to be surveilling. If you're a control-y deck or you're manipulating the top of your deck, great, fantastic. Like, that will really, really help you. But we haven't really seen, or not to my knowledge, I don't think we've seen any Surveil lands. But more importantly, I feel like we've not seen so much lands that wants to put cards in the graveyard. I feel like graveyard decks are getting a bit of a bump from this, but without it being busted.
I think there's another mechanic, obviously, that massively benefits is Domain.
Yeah.
Which is another one. So you've got Leyline Binding.
Yep.
So he's playing multiple formats.
Yeah.
So actually, it gives you 2 land types for that as well.
Oh, yeah. So
that's obviously significant as well.
So I think that buffs all those type of commands. I wasn't really thinking about Domain, but actually now you think about it. Sorry, now you mention it's a really good point, because there are lots of cards that they want all those land types. That works really, really nicely. I think, like I said, in terms of design, these feel really nice. These aren't another tap land, but these are a dual land that is going to break a format or anything like that. I just think these are good, solid. What's the old Marge Simpson meme? I just think it's good, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Probably horribly misquoting that.
I think they'll certainly see play. I think.
Oh yeah.
a lot of dual lands, you feel like if you pull them in your pack, it's the waste of a rare slot. Whereas these are actually, I think, we'll see play.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the only one thing I can see an argument for is particularly in Constructed, why have 4 of these when you could have, say, 4 of the tri-lands? Which I do get, and is a very, very fair point. But what I would also say is if you're looking at building tri-land decks, you can have 4 of them. You can then supplement with, 4 of 3 of these, if not more. And you've then got it's not an aggressive mana base, but it's still a good mana base. When these are untapped, the amount of times where the example we gave, you'll want an island or a swamp to tap for instead of anything else. I think these are great. Are they better than triomes? No, I don't think so. Having cycling on them is just amazing. Early days when you need them, great. If you're in Commander and you want to fetch them in an end step so they come in, so they're effectively untapped, fantastic. But in the late game when you don't need them, cycling them away to draw a card, I think is incredible. So there is a complete different level here. But I think these are neat.
Yeah, I think the land typings is the main feature of these.
100%. Without it, we wouldn't really be discussing this. Yeah. Or if we are, we'd be sort of saying, oh, great, another rare land that's just going to snag up a pack that nobody really wants, unless you're playing a sealed event, effectively, and it'd be nice to have them.
Yeah. I think without the land types, it's a direct comparison to the scrying temples, right? Mm-hmm. But with them, it puts them a cut above. And, in Commander, if you're building a budget mana base, sometimes you have enchantments that can only go on forests and things like that. So, again,
exactly.
It's a plus point.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. We call these fetchable lands, but what we don't actually mean is you need a fetch land to get them. We are talking about ramp spells that said, go get a forest, for argument's sake. Or the example you gave, which is attached to a forest. And, if you can then do that, these cards are great for that. I think that the design is pretty good for them. Like I said, they're not spiky, fantastic, but they are not a waste of a land. I think these will probably see good amount of play. My opinion to this. What about the rest of what we've seen so far? Have you seen anything that particularly is really exciting you? What are you looking forward to? Opening those packs, and you're really looking forward to see, to pulling one open.
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to this card just for the name of it, and it's the Magnetic Snuffler. Have you seen this card?
No, show.
So it's an anteater with a magnetic disc for a nose.
I have seen this. Yeah, this is really cool. Go on.
Yeah, and I'll read the card. So it's an artifact creature construct, 4/4, costs you 5 colourless mana, and when the Magnetic Snuffler enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to Magnetic Snuffler. And also, definitely relevant line of text is whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Magnetic Snuffler.
Yeah. So I can see this. I actually think outside of standard, I think this may go in my Corval deck, my Corval Treasures deck, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's another really nice way of... Because its whole thing is once you use those treasures, it's just extra value. Yeah. It's another creature that's going to pump, as far as I'm fair.
It gets huge. I've always been a massive fan of equipment decks, so it fits into a couple of my decks quite nicely as well, because, you get out your Sword of Feast and Famine.
Yeah.
Someone explodes it instantly while you're trying to equip it, and this will bring it back attached, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of treasures, have you seen The Crime Novelist?
No, we're just looking at this now. Do you want to read this?
So The Crime Novelist, it's a 2 generic mana and 1 red for a Goblin Bard creature.
Yep.
Which is a great typing, by the way.
Oh,
Goblin Bard.
Yeah, I like that.
It's got a little picture of a goblin writing on a scroll, and it's a 1/3, and it has one of the most ridiculous lines of text I've ever read from an uncommon, which is, whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Crime Novelist and add red mana.
Oh, I mean... talking of going into a Corval deck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Wow.
This card is insane.
Yeah.
You're doubling the mana from your treasures. You're creating a huge creature while you're doing it. And yeah, if it is in Korvold, you're also getting drawing cards and pumping Korvold for sacrificing permanents in the first place.
Hell yeah. That's
so this uncommon, I feel like it's going to command probably a higher price than most of the rares in this set.
So just to bring this back into the set, particularly we've got a lot of Investigate going on here, which is, if anyone doesn't know Investigate, it's 2 sacrifice a clue token and you get to draw a card. Like there'll be lots of sort of control-y decks that will be looking to do that. Now, red isn't classic control, but I mean, having that card there's going to be a lot of Investigate around in this. I think this could definitely see, particularly in sealed, but I think even in constructed, I think it's probably going to end up seeing a little bit.
Yeah, being able to sacrifice a clue and get 1 red mana back, right, it's half your money back effectively, and you draw a card that you might be able to spend that red mana on.
Exactly. It's not a full engine, but it's still a pretty good engine. Do you know what I mean? Or even if you've still got another clue knocking around, you can use that 1 mana to effectively cheapen your next one, draw another card.
Yeah,
you can try and draw into something else. Yeah, I think that is real nice. One that I kind of want to note is the Tunnel Tipster, which is the Mole Scout.
This is definitely one of the cutest creatures they've released in a fair while, isn't it?
There's just something about him. You just look at him and you just think, wow, this is real cute. So this is Tunnel Tipster. So this is a generic and a green for a 1/1 Mole Scout. Mole Scout, by the way. Awesome. And it reads, at the beginning of your end step, if a face-down creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Tunnel Tipster. It's also got tap and add 1 mana. So it's a mana dork that works for these face-down creatures. Again, I think it's good. It will see its place. But I want to give this a call out because of exactly what you've said is the cute factor. This mold, this is cute. This is seriously cute. I know they're starting to do this a lot now in cards. Introduce cute characters, get the cute sort of cutesy sort of look to them. But I think this is definitely going to be it. Do you know what? Actually, I think if they made like teddies or plushies of them, I think these would do real well. These are real cute. If you haven't seen this card, Tunnel Tipster, go check it out. I think it's a real cutie.
Now I think this might be I don't know if he's native to Ravnica or not, because maybe he's slipped through an Omen Path, because in Q3 of this year we've got the Bloom Burrow set,
that's right.
Which the whole thing is going to be kind of anthropomorphized animals, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he's a little visitor from there. Who knows?
Maybe he'll come back.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What else? Any other notable cards you want to talk about?
Yes. So back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember the first episode, but I had a Gorgon tribal deck.
Yeah, that's right. You tell us about this.
And there's been a couple of Gorgons previewed actually so far, but the one I want to focus on is the Persuasive Interrogators.
Okay.
And it's a 6-cost card, 4 generic and 2 black. There's a pair of Gorgon detectives on there. And when they enter the battlefield, you investigate, so you're going to create a clue token.
Yep.
And next line of text, it's whenever you sacrifice a clue, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. And now, for those who don't know, a player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. So
I feel like things have just settled down from Fracture All at One, where poison counters made their return back to standard play. And it's just settled, so that card could really knock things up a little bit.
Yeah, if you can create enough clues.
Yeah, particularly with the amount of clues that could be knocking around. Like I sort of said to you off mic, the mana value may but I could see this being a 2-of in certain decks.
Yeah, I think it is a 5/6 as well, so there's not many creatures that can trade into that.
No, exactly. It's pretty good. We were speaking off mic about this one is the latest Massacre Girl. Now I loved Massacre Girl, the OG one. I thought it was a great card, fantastic. So they've released another one. It's called Massacre Girl Known Killer. It's 2 generic and 2 black. It's a legendary creature, human assassin. It's a 4/4 with menace, and it reads: creatures with control have Wither, which is they deal damage to creatures in forms of -1/-1 counters. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if its toughness was less than 1, draw a card. The fact that it has Wither, this -1/-1 damage, I like this. What I really like about this as well is that if you get this in the right deck, your chump blockers that are just sitting there not doing too much can start nudging away at bigger creatures. Instead of just sitting there like, how do I get through this? Menace is great with this sort of stuff, but what about those little tokens? They're just sitting there. They're protecting your life, whatever. But I really like this, and I really hope we start to see a bit more of Wither as well. I think this could be really, really cool.
I think the fact that they're willing to put a mechanic on a single card in a set is quite unique.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to see more of it.
Yeah,
if a card wants a mechanic, they can bring it back from the past.
Yep.
It fits just so well with the character and what her original card does.
100%, and that's what I love about it as well, because that is the original Master Girl. For every time a creature was killed, it adds another one, basically a generic -1/-1.
Yeah, so it was like an aura, wasn't it? And then eventually it built up, and it basically you ended up with Massacre Girl stood alone, and everyone else was normally deceased.
Yeah, what you wanted is you wanted your opponent to have a 1 toughness, 2, 3, build it all up, and it just stacks up to the point where you basically wipe the whole board. I was absolutely massive fan of Massacre Girl, and I do really like this new one. I'm looking forward to trying to play around with that a little bit as well. I think that'd be really nice.
I've got another card I want to talk about.
Talk to me.
Delny, the Streetwise Lookout.
Okay.
Now, it's a white card, 2 generic and 1 white mana. She's a legendary creature, or they are a legendary creature, sorry. Human Scout. And it has creatures you control with power 2 or less, can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater.
Yep.
And if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time.
We were talking about this earlier. This could be a spicy little number, couldn't it?
Now, there's a mechanic in the set called Disguise, which, as you don't know, you can pay these disguised creatures face down as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2.
Yep.
And most of them have a disguise cost, so you unveil them and they turn into a different creature, or they have an effect when they flip or when they die. Or,
yeah, that's right.
There's various different things. So with this, the Streetwise Lookout on the board, basically, if they've got power 3 or greater creatures, they're not going to be able to block your disguised creatures.
Yep.
For a start, and then some of them you can flip them up, and they're maybe a 3/2 on the back, get in from the extra damage.
Yep.
But the important line of text is the second one, so that you're triggering creatures you control with power 2 or less.
Yep.
Triggering additional time. So
that's pretty good.
Now, an egregious example is a Dockside Extortionist.
Yep, there'll be people who will be cringing at listening to that, but that is yep.
Yeah, that's a bit naughty, but yeah, there's numerous creatures. Going back to the poison, you've got the Rot Priest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Toxic isn't a triggered ability. That's a static ability. But the second one, where if you target it, that's going to trigger twice, and they're going to get 2 poison counters.
So it's funny because I was talking to a friend about Rot Priest the other night, actually, and I think that could come back. We could be seeing a bit more of that. That poison deck is still seeing meta play, but it's a little off meta, and that's why it gets into the meta. If that kind of makes a bit of sense. But I think we could be seeing with cards like that, we could be seeing that come back in, really, which is it's good fun. It's good. It's nice to see. I like seeing different types of decks come through. Particularly cards like that. There's one. Look, I want to just have a little chat about this card, and it's an old card, but it's really nice to see Lightning Helix in Standard. I love this card. I really, really do. So Lightning Helix is a Boros card, so it's a 1 red, 1 white. It's an instant that reads, Lightning Helix does 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. Look, I'm not saying this card is busted or anything like this, but I think this is real good value. I'm really, really a big fan of this. I know there's arguments of like, oh yeah, well, for 1 red mana you can bolt someone for 3 damage. But I think getting 3 life is really nice, and seeing that in Standard is really nice to see, as much as another card called Assassin's Trophy. which is one black, one green instant with destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their libraries for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield and shuffle. I mean, for 2 mana instant destroy target permanent, not creature, permanent, I think, look, it's really good to have this level of removal, particularly flowing into standard.
I agree, yeah. When you've got the premium removal, it allows you to go a bit crazy with some of the creatures, right? So you're going to see more interesting designs.
Yeah, exactly.
To get blown up with Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah,
great.
Exactly. I'm sure I'll be swearing about it when I start doing these plays and people are like, oh, in response to Assassin's Trophy, and I'll be like, no! One more card I want to speak to you about is, and this one's a new one. It's called No More Lies. It's a counter spell. You know I love the control, and you know I love countering stuff. But this one is a 1 white, 1 blue instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays free. If this spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into the owner's graveyard. I love this. As a control mage, I love this card. I know you've got cards like Dovin's Veto that are similar mana pips, can't be countered, but I really like this because, first of all, it's 2 mana counter target spell. Now, I know there is a clause that a controller can play 3 mana. But how often have you got 3 mana just knocking around? Particularly in the early stages. I feel like this is a real nice hit. But the other thing, the like cherry on the top of this is that this goes into exile. So this is, you know, graveyard shenanigans. You know, you don't want it in the graveyard. Great, bop. I'm going to No More Lies this. I love this as a control mage, as an Azorius lover. I really like this card, and I hope to see lots of play from it.
Imagine hitting something like a second Sunrise. This.
Yeah, like there's just so much. I mean, I know it's horrible, but there is nothing nicer than, you know, particularly if someone taps out or if they try and play around, you know, oh, I've got 1 to pay or 2 to pay off, and this one is going to go in there and like, yeah. Oh, I shouldn't be so excited about this, but I really am. I think it's so nice. I don't think there's been a real premium counterspell around in Standard recently, and I feel like this could be that premium counterspell without going down the route of like the power of like a Force of Will or something like that. I mean, obviously that's another level of power which they probably will never put into Standard, in my opinion. But I like this.
I think because it's really 2 mana, and it costs your opponent 3 mana to not have to counter that spell. It's.
I just think as well, if this was counter creature or counter non-creature spell, this would be this would be so meh. It'd be unbelievable. This is counter spell, so it covers both sides of the saddle, but also for 3 mana they have to pay into it. And exile, I just think this is a great card.
Yeah, I'm
so excited to get hold of this. Weirdly enough, this is probably one of the cards I'm most excited to get hold of.
That's honestly disgusting.
I know. And I don't feel bad about it. That's the other. Really
we talk about all these amazing creatures, and you're just looking forward to the countering.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually looking forward to that. Anything else of note? What about any of the sort of, you know, the sort of legendary creatures that are sort of doing the rounds? You know, we've you know, the early parts of the preview, we've seen some really nice ones. Are you seeing anything that you may want to make a commander out of, or anything that you will think will see some good play in Standard?
I think there's a 3-cost Archdra's Charm.
Yep.
I think this card is very powerful. It's 3 green pips, instant, and you get to choose one of the following. So you can either search your library for a creature or land card and reveal it, put it onto the battlefield tapped if it's a land card, or if it's a creature you put it in your hand, then you get a shuffle. Because you can search for any land card, Field of the Dead is a good example. Instant speed.
Yeah.
Create a zombie, block something. Yeah.
Just a little side note of that. I think in one of the special guests slots. So it won't be in standard, but they are reprinting Field of the Dead.
Probably no accident, I would say, with this card to go with it.
100%. Just on a little side note as well, the art on the Field of the Dead is really cool. It's sort of depicting it looks like a Gothic church of some sort, and zombies coming through the wooden floors.
I really like the Victimize art actually on the.
That is really, really cool. To be quite honest, a lot of those special guest cards we've already had a pre-discussion about. I know obviously they're not standard, but they are really cool. The Drown in the Lock one, I'm a big fan of Drown in the Lock. You know, I really, really like that card when it was in standard, but the printing of it is really nice. Tragic Slip, another great card. You know, it's always good to see these sort of these extra supplementary cards. But sorry, anyway, the charm.
Where was I? I was halfway through the text box. So yeah, you can either
apologies.
Fetch a land and a creature, or the second mode is you can put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control, and then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So it's not a fight, so you're going to kill their creature, yours is going to survive.
Yep.
So good regardless. And the third option is a simple exile target artifact or enchantment.
Yep.
So it's like, I've always loved these modal spells. The charms, talking earlier about some of the new Capenna ones were hit and miss, whereas this one is just hit.
Yeah, I mean, so charms can be really, really powerful. You know, for a bit of context, before we start recording, we were talking about the charms from New Capenna and how they are just so meh. It's unbelievable. Which is it's a real shame, because I'm a massive fan of charms. A massive fan of charms. But equally, I can appreciate they don't want to start printing things like Archmage charms into standards. That could be problematic. But, you know, and some of these other charms as well. But actually, I feel like this is... I don't think it's a halfway house. I feel like it's just a bit of a nudge a bit further than the halfway house. I think this is a good card. You know, the only downside to it is going to be the free pips.
Yeah.
But if you're playing heavy green, you know, you can pay that all day, every day. I think this could be a really nice little card, actually.
I think the new Capenna ones were diluted because they were all 3 colour.
Yeah.
They had to come up with something for each colour. This is just pure green.
Yep. Green doing
all
green
day,
things.
every day of the week.
Yeah.
Does what green wants to do.
Yep.
And premium, instant speed.
Yeah, I think that is pretty good. I'm going to take this moment to chat about Planeswalker of the set, Kaya, Spirit's Justice. 2 generic, 1 white and 1 black. She's a legendary Planeswalker. So she has a static ability. Well, they've tried to avoid static abilities since War of the Spark, haven't they? Particularly my man Teferi.
They use them sparingly, don't
they? Very much so. But I thought this one was really interesting, worth a note. So the static ability reads, whenever one or more creatures you control and or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them until the end of turn. Target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. So that's a lot of words there. But effectively, what I feel like that is that when people try and, exile's always been a funny one because there's not very many come back from exile. But I feel like this is creating a token of, you may use this for your value.
So is it creating a token, or is it a token you already control is becoming a copy of it?
It reads a bit funny, but I think as you're creating a copy of it, because what you can do is, one of her abilities is -2, exile target creature you control for each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. Doesn't really make too much of an effect with that, but I suppose you can start to then get the value out of it a little bit, really. Her other abilities are +2, Surveil 2, then exile a card from your graveyard. This leads into that static ability. Create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. I mean, it's pretty good. It's not too bad. She comes in with free loyalty, so, she's not going to run away with things. We were talking about this earlier, and I know why they've started to stop doing this, but I feel like I'd like maybe another Planeswalker released in each set. Because I do like Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of older players, most of them become a win condition, don't they? The more powerful ones, it's kind of a race to get your Planeswalker down and get it to an ultimate and try and win. Mm-hmm. I know even my first standard deck was the aim was to ultimate Vraska, create the 3 little assassins, and if one of them connects with your opponent, you won the game, right?
Yeah.
So, this one is interesting. So I'm reading it again. So it's until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it. So I guess you can turn your clue into a creature.
Yeah.
For example, in the set.
Yeah.
She's got a +1 that creates a spirit with flying as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is quite an interesting card. She's only 4 mana.
Yep.
Which is good.
I just feel like I've probably done a really poor job of explaining her, but I have a feeling, is this busted? No, but could you do some stuff with this? I think you could do. I think there's some real graveyard shenanigans that can go on here, and I like it. I do like I said, I like a Planeswalker. I'm a big Super Friends player, so I'm always keeping my eye out for that next one. I feel like there has been cards in the past that have definitely been a bit meh.
Yeah.
A little bit of play. Whereas I feel like this, is this going to be a 4 of inclusion? Maybe not, but I think in the right deck, this could be good.
This is a really unique effect. I mean, like you say, there's not many ways of getting anything back from exile.
No, they purposely try and avoid that for good reason, but
you need a token to do it. But yeah, turning your clue into a Blood Artist or something, for example, and you can kill your opponent, right? I'm talking about Commander again, but yeah, this is a really interesting effect.
I think this could prove to be some really interesting build-arounds. Is it going to be your main focus? Probably not, but I think there will be, I look at those colours and I instantly think Death and Taxes. Do you know what I mean? So there are going to be ways that you can manipulate this a little bit, exploit it a little bit, perhaps. Talking of Death and Taxes, but but yeah, I just thought this one was definitely worthwhile a little mention, because I think not only is it the only Planeswalker, which is the only one that's been sport so far, but I think this is really quite a unique card, something a little bit different. The other one that kind of this reminded me for unique abilities was, which was the Teferi Master of Time that you can tick up on every opponent's upturn.
Oh yeah.
So in Standard, it had its spot. Don't get me wrong. But in Commander, where you're doing it every opponent's.
Hilarious.
Hilarious, yeah. I thought it was really, really good, particularly with an ultimate. I think the ultimate was take 2 extra turns. Always good.
Yikes.
Always good fun.
Spoken like a true control player.
Yeah, well, I'm not even going to try and hide that one, but... is there another card? Is there a card, say, you've got, another card that you sort of feel like really is either really doing it for you, or you're really excited to have a little play around with, or even a notable card that you think is going to see big play? Like, what would that card be?
Big play is a stretch, but I want to talk about Slime Against Humanity.
Okay, yeah. So, go on. Okay, we talked about this before the pod, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. Go on.
Now, so Slime Against Humanity is a sorcery, 2 generic, 1 green, and you create a 0/0 green ooze creature token with trample, notably, and you put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is 2 plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes or are named Slime Against Humanity. And the important line of text, a deck can have any number of cards named Slime Against Humanity. So it's another one of these cards. You can have any number of this card in your deck.
Yeah.
And so we've seen a few. Obviously, you've got the classic rats.
Yep.
You've got the Dragonfire, the Shadowborn Apostles.
We've just seen the Mill Advisor as well, and Ravnica Remastered. Yeah,
the Persistent Petitioners.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, the Mill variant. And this is an Ooze variant, so this is way more exciting than any of those things. The fact it has Trample, if someone wipes the board, they'll go to your graveyard, right? And every time you cast this, they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they have Trample.
Yep.
I feel like it's just really good, and there's some classic cards that go well with it. Like Thrumming Stones, you're going to end up with a lot of ooze.
Yep.
And I just love these kind of cards. Seeing them come up with new ones is really interesting.
I also I think this is going to be a great card. My point I'm about to make is very meh compared to the actual card itself. But Slime Against Humanity? What a name! Come on!
It sounds like a mobile game, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously they've obviously thought about the board, the card game, Cards Against Humanity, which is, by the way, amazing. Only play
more of a fruity card game than Magic.
Only play that with real friends, because you may learn more about your friends you don't want to know. Anyway, that's a great card game, but I think it's a really nice little nod towards that. But I agree with you. I think this is a great card, and I think, the fact that you can have as many of these as possible is just another interesting build around. Do you know what I mean? Ooze Tribal, here we go.
Yep. There's a few good Ooze cards that have been released. They've got an Ooze Commander with Storm.
Oh,
was released.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A little while ago. So, yeah, that fits in here perfectly.
I think Ooze is back on the menu, boys.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, I mean, look, we are only part of the way through the spoilers, but I think we're both quite excited to see where else goes. I still feel like they have released a bit of the pressure on this, and the next job lot, probably next week, I think we're going to start seeing some of the bombs and the really good cards, and I'm looking forward to it. I think this should be quite good. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of the set and the releases we've seen so far?
I would like just to mention that there are 3 legendary creatures that you can get if you're doing pre-release.
Yeah, this is a really good point, actually.
And they come in your pre-release kit. There's 3 that you can get. I won't go through the cards now, but it's important to note you can't use them in your pre-release deck.
Yeah, we've had this in other sets as well, haven't we?
They had the team-up cards, which were really cool, but you couldn't use them in your pre-release deck, and I think a lot of people got a bit confused about it. Played against their opponents, and they'd accidentally put them in the deck.
Was that in the March of the Machine?
I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sounds right. Yeah.
But all of these cards are pretty cool, actually.
Do you want to just read one as an example, just so we can hear the level?
Yeah, so I'll go through this one. So it's Voja, the Jaws of the Conclave. Mm-hmm. It's a legendary creature, wolf, 2 generic, and Naya, so it's red, green, white.
Yep.
5/5, Vigilance, Trample, Ward 3.
Oh, wow.
Whenever Voja, Jaws of the Conclave attacks, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control, and then draw a card for each wolf you control. So this is an elf and wolf kindred deck.
Wow, yeah.
That's going to get huge fast, and I guess it's like elf ball. There's a lot of white-green elves, right?
Yeah.
We've seen,
and there's a lot of green-red wolves.
Yeah,
some
red
really
gives you
ones.
haste.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cards that create wolves. There's even elf cards that create wolves.
There is.
You don't see very often because there's nothing linking them, but actually this card brings it kind of all together.
I was weirdly looking at one the other night, actually. I can't remember the name of it, but it just popped into my head.
I think you'll see a lot of this card. It's a wolf. The art is really cool. I'm not going to go into it too much. If you haven't read the story, it's a bit of a story spoiler.
Yep.
But I think this will definitely see play, and the other 2 are quite interesting as well.
I think it's a real shame from... if I opened that in my pre-release pack, I would be a little bit disappointed. Bear in mind, you can't play it.
You can't use it there and then. Yeah, I think it's interesting because they could distribute it as just a promo to give out at the pre-release.
Yep. Well, it gives incentive to people because, look, that reads like a good card. Interesting little build around, you can see it doing a lot of different things. The fact that it just... I feel like if that was my pre-release kit, it would be you basically feel like you're a card down straight off the bat. But also, it's a good card. People are going to want it. I feel like if you had that as a promo, it incentivizes people to go in and maybe pick it up. So,
yeah, I think it's a good way to get cards that don't belong in the set because they might maybe a bit too powerful. Mm-hmm. It's a good way to distribute them, but I think they should just give them out as promos. Having them in the kits is interesting. However, it does mean if your store's got excess kits and they sell, at least you're guaranteed the promo.
Yeah.
Is it from another point of view?
Yeah, that's
because otherwise, you might not end up with the card, right, if they run out of promos.
So, I mean, just on that card, obviously we're looking at it in it. For me, it reads like a good card. But what we've got in terms of going on in standard and going with the set, do you think this would break the format or be that strong? I mean, I think in Commander, in terms of Commander, I'm looking at there's so much it can do. But in terms of, say, standard, like, obviously there's a reason they've not wanted to release it, and there's probably good reasons why that I'm not aware of. But, you know, do you think, you know, what's the reason why they haven't released this then, do you think?
I think, I mean, this card in particular, it's quite a niche, and it would take up a mythic slot. Mm-hmm. All three of these cards are mythics, I should point out. And there's interesting design space which doesn't necessarily feed into the rest of the set, I would say.
Okay.
They've explored different archetypes. You've got an Is It one that cares about instants or sorceries, which isn't what the set is about.
Yeah.
And you've got another one that cares about planeswalkers. Well, they're only printing one planeswalker per set now.
Yep.
So again, these are very niche cards that probably don't complement the set.
These feel a little bit like Commander cards that just needed a place to re-release, really, didn't they?
I think so, and especially when you're losing the what am I trying to say? The set booster exclusive cards, the Commander cards, they're going away, right? Because there is no such thing as a set booster now. You'll see them, and they can't put them in the play boosters because play boosters are standard cards. So I think it's a place to put the kind of cards that they probably excited to design. Maybe they were part of the set at one time, but they thought they'd push them out to Commander instead. Yeah, I'm sure there's a good reason behind it. Be interesting to hear it, really, wouldn't it? But so I think sometimes we're obviously as consumers, we're not privy to these decisions, but sometimes it's really interesting to hear, because you read the card and you think, yeah, this they've obviously had a plan for this, and the plan didn't come through, which I think it's a good thing that if it's a card that someone wants to design, they're not letting the set hold them back, and they've found a place to put these cards. So I think it's overall a good thing. Yeah, you're probably right with that. Cool. Right. So, Dom, it's episode 3 done. We're well on our way to becoming pros at this. Oh my God. I wouldn't say that. But to everyone listening, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out both our socials on Instagram and Twitter/X. I'm also on TikTok as well for some fresh pack openings on there. We'd love to hear your feedback and your comments about this episode, but we'd also like to hear what you want us to talk about. You know, we've enjoyed talking about the upcoming sets, but we're always open to conversations with people. So what do you guys want us to talk about? We'll call it there on that point, but once again, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See you later, Dom. See ya.